The following program presents principles designed to promote good health and is not intended to take the place of personalized professional care. The opinions and ideas expressed are those of the speaker. Viewers are encouraged to draw their own conclusions about the information presented.
Hello and welcome to Health for a Lifetime. I'm your host, Don McIntosh. We're glad you're with us today, and we hope that as a result of today's program, you're going to have health. Today we have a special guest who can talk with us about that, Dr. Zeno Charles Marcel. Welcome, Doctor.
Thank you very much, Don.
I love your name. I've said it now a few times, and it has that French ring to it, but also just makes you feel comfortable. Zeno Charles Marcel.
Yeah, I feel pretty comfortable with it too.
You're used to it. You like to live with that name.
Yeah.
You know, you are a doctor of internal medicine. How many years did you go to school?
Oh, too many. Sometimes we call it eternal medicine.
Quite a long time. You had to go to medical school, then you did a residency, and then probably more after that.
Yes, and I'm also subspecialized in geriatrics.
Okay, excellent. And then you're also an associate professor there at Loma Linda.
At Loma Linda University, that's correct.
Well, we're glad that you could take some time out of your busy schedule. And also you work in what's called preventive medicine or so-called lifestyle medicine. I believe you work at the Lifestyle Center of America there in Oklahoma.
That's correct.
And tell us a little bit about that Lifestyle Center. How long has it been there?
Well, we opened our doors in 1996. And it's just one of the lifestyle centers that exist around the country. We're not technically associated with each other, but it's kind of the legacy that has been set forth that prompted the development of the Battle Creek Sanitarium way back in the 1800s.
Now, these lifestyle centers are getting a lot of press these days. They're actually getting funding by government agencies now because they work.
That's the truth.
Is that right?
We are not funded yet by government agencies, but some are looking at ways of being able to.
But the principles, like for instance, Dr. Dean Ornish with all his studies, and some people are familiar with that, with the low-fat, low cholesterol, high carbohydrate diet. They're seeing that works, and they're starting to at least do studies that may lead to that. So you guys are really on the cutting edge.
Yes.
Now, at the Lifestyle Center of America, among others, I know you're trying to be self-depreciating there in that sense. You don't, like you said to me, you don't want to just always talk about your program, but or what you're doing there. But I want to talk about why it works. What happens physically to people when they go through a program like that? What happens mentally to in a program like that? What happens to people spiritually? What happens to people physically when they go through your program?
Well, I'd step back a little bit and start off with saying that simple, natural remedies, simple approaches to things applied in faith can actually produce supernatural results. And that's what we see at the Lifestyle Center of America. We see in other lifestyle centers around the country.
Simple lifestyle measures applied in faith get results.
That's correct.
Sounds like something out of the New Testament. Sounds like something out of the Bible.
Yes, actually, it's a principle that is found in the Bible. And having faith and trust in God to hold Him at His word, He says what we should eat, and He has given us instructions, and we're just following those things.
So the top 3 killers in America, let me see if I'm right. Heart disease, number 1.
Heart disease.
Stroke, number 2.
That's correct.
Cancer, number 3.
That's correct.
What's number 4?
Diabetes.
What's number 5?
I think AIDS is coming up there. Accidents are high. Pneumonia, infectious diseases.
Lung problems.
Chronic obstructive lung disease.
Okay, those kind of things. All those kind of things you see there at the Lifestyle Center?
We see all of those, but we pay more attention to diabetes and heart disease and high blood pressure and obesity. Okay. Now, we look at the causes of disease or the cause of death by disease in one way of looking at it is to actually list the kind of disease, but another is what's underlying, what has caused these disease. And by and far, the number one issue is dietary and exercise. Okay, that combination of how people live, their daily life, actually is the greatest contributor to premature death.
So do you have a track there? Do you have a physical exercise place to address the exercise issues?
At our place, we have a fitness center. We have lots of trails, lots of walking space, I should say, outside of the center that people can enjoy.
Okay. And then concerning the nutrition and dietary things, do you have a kitchen there? Do you have different things like that?
We have instruction in how to prepare foods, and we have a restaurant where people enjoy 2 or 3 really first-class gourmet meals a day. And really it's an exciting thing to be a part of as you see people come in, especially when they come in skeptical. You know, they're there because they say, well, you know, somebody's forcing me to come. You know, my wife says if I don't do better, you know, she's not going to be happy. So they come.
So right? They come even with their arms twisted,
right,
and they feel good when they leave.
That's right. Because they may come skeptical, and after they've tried and they've seen, they say, I don't know what I was afraid of. I don't know what I was skeptical about. This is phenomenal.
Well, they've said that the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the details. And I think that you brought some details with you today.
Yes.
Maybe some physical details. What happens to a person that has high blood sugar, you know, diabetes in your program?
Well, not wanting to misquote or overstate, people in our program, what I have here is a list of some of our details with regard to cholesterols and so on. For our cholesterol, people who spend 19 days there decrease their total cholesterol by 11.5%.
Wow. So, and what does that mean? For every percentage drop in cholesterol, what happens to your heart disease risk?
They decrease their risk of heart disease by 2 to 3%.
So if it's dropped that much, it's 50% or more?
Well, we're looking at a 22 to 33% decrease in risk of dying of heart disease.
Amazing. Okay. So what happens then?
We also look at the LDL cholesterol. That is decreased. That's the lousy, the bad cholesterol. That is decreased by 13.5%. The triglycerides tend to be dropping even faster, and on average, we're looking at 20.59%, almost 21% drop in triglycerides for people who come through our program. Our HDL cholesterols tend to drop a little bit. HDL is the so-called good cholesterol. And if we look at the people who have the worst profile, that is the most risk for heart disease, their HDL cholesterols actually go up while their LDL cholesterols go down and their triglycerides go down and their total cholesterols go down.
But overall, the reason they probably drop is because the total cholesterol goes down, and that's a part of the total cholesterol?
That's part of the total cholesterol. But it also has to do with our particular dietary approach. We include in the dietary program that people can have nuts, seeds, avocados, olives, things like that in moderation. Okay. These allow for changes in the triglyceride and the HDL cholesterol that we don't see if people were to take these out of the diet.
It would go down much faster.
Yeah.
Okay, a question. Why should someone go to a lifestyle center? You know, lots of people say, look, I wouldn't go across the street to learn how to cook different food or this or that because I don't want to do it. But why go away and go to a place like a lifestyle center?
We have several different ways of approaching this. One is if someone has a chronic disease or wants to prevent a chronic disease, they can try it the old way. And the old way is they'll think about it, they'll think about it, they'll say, yes, I'll try it, and they never do it.
So this jump starts them.
That's correct. It's a jump start at a new way of living. It's not just putting the person on a diet. It's not just an issue of starting them off on an exercise program. No, it's actually showing them and teaching them about their body and about the way that they live and how the way they live affects what's happening to them health-wise. But it's not just even telling them about it. As they experience it themselves, they see the numbers. We have no secrets. So people see what their laboratory tests are. They get a full explanation for their laboratory tests, and they follow every step of the way. No secrets.
It's almost like anything. It's like taste and see that the Lord is good, the text says.
That's precisely.
And if you try anything out, I mean, the first time you do anything, someone goes with you, providing that emotional support. I've been here before. I know what this is like, and then go with me. I mean, this is the way people work.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if you've traveled much around the world.
Yes,
but probably the first time you went somewhere, someone went with you. I know that when I went with my wife to Romania, she's Romanian, I felt great comfort that she was with me.
Right,
I've traveled to countries when I didn't know anybody there, but I certainly liked it a lot better when someone was with me.
Right.
And then they'd introduce me to the food and the culture and different things, and I would feel comfortable going there on my own now.
But even
That's the kind of the idea, probably.
Even if somebody didn't go before you, sometimes having company with you, we have found that, that husbands and wives who come together actually do better, not only because they're learning the same thing, but when they get back home, what one may have forgotten, the other one says, you know what, we had decided that we were going to do this. So they help keep each other accountable.
Yeah.
And that is very, very helpful. Part of the issue of cardiac rehabilitation, whether at a lifestyle center or in the general public, we know that if both husband and wife are involved, the husband or the wife who has the heart disease actually does better in the long run.
Does blood pressure come down?
Blood pressure comes down. Let's see, do I have anything here on blood pressure? No, I don't on this list. But typically, we see a drop in the systolic and the diastolic, the top and bottom numbers. I don't have those numbers to give you, however.
When they go down, so they go off their blood pressure medication if they have it?
Many people who come in on multiple blood pressure medications leave with a lot less medication that they have to take, and some of them leave without having to take any medications at all.
Do their pants still fit when they leave?
Most people, no. We have a statistic with regard to weight loss. In terms of pounds lost, we're looking at a mean change of about 8.3 pounds in 19 days, or 4.1% drop in weight.
So it's not a lot, but it's going off like it came on over time.
The issue with regard to weight loss, we allow people to understand that losing weight should not be drudgery.
Mm-hmm.
You see, most people don't start off by saying, next year I think I'll put on 10 pounds, and then work hard to get those 10 pounds on. No, most people just live the way they live, and 10 pounds come on.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is we help people to live better. When they live better, the 10 pounds come off. They don't have to force those pounds off. The pounds come off as a byproduct of how they're living.
Okay, physically, you know, you put them in this new environment. They have beautiful surroundings there. I've seen the place. I've been there. I actually got a chance to visit there last year. And it's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful environment. There's good food to eat. There's good people to talk to. And they have a lot of social support one with another and different things. But what do they do when they go back?
Well, for many people, when they go back home, they are also looking for ways that they can incorporate what they're doing into their daily life. Mm-hmm. So from the beginning of the program, we tell people in a very straightforward way, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. Mm-hmm. So we engage them in exercises while they're there to plan out things for when they go back home, so they don't just fall back into what they were doing before, because that's the easiest thing to do. If that's the case, then what they would have done is they would have had a nice vacation, they'd have learned a lot, but it wouldn't have helped them in the long run. Mm-hmm. So we encourage most of our patients, actually encourage all of our patients to put into practice the things that they have learned, and many people are very, very successful in doing just that. Mm-hmm.
We've been talking with Dr. Zeno Charles Marcel. He's the medical director of the Lifestyle Center of America, and they have a web page by that same name, www.lifestylecenter.org, if you'd like to get in touch with him, know more about the programs that he's been talking about. But you needn't do that. Even the principals would help you. If you have a friend that needs to be watching this, give them a call. Join us. When we come back, we'll be talking more about the changes that can happen when we address the issues of lifestyle. Join us when we come back.
Have you found yourself wishing that you could shed a few pounds? Have you been on a diet for most of your life, but not found anything that will really keep the weight off? If you've answered yes to any of these questions, then we have a solution for you that works. Dr. Hans Deal and Dr. Eileen Ludington have written a marvelous booklet called Reversing Obesity Naturally, and we'd like to send it to you free of charge. Here's a medically sound approach successfully used by thousands who were able to eat more and lose weight permanently without feeling guilty or hungry through lifestyle medicine. Dr. Deal and Dr. Ludington have been featured on 3ABN, and in this booklet, they present a sensible approach to eating, nutrition, and lifestyle changes that can help you prevent heart disease, diabetes, and even cancer. Call or write today for your free copy of Reversing Obesity Naturally, and you could be on your way to a healthier, happier you. It's absolutely free of charge, so call or write today.
Welcome back. We've been talking with Dr. Zeno Charles Marcel. We've been talking about good news, that your lifestyle can be changed, and there actually can be proof in the pudding. The numbers can change physically. Things can happen. Your cholesterol can lower, your blood pressure can go down, the need for medication can be even alleviated completely in some cases. Your weight can go down, you can have pep in your step, spunk in your trunk, and action and no subtraction.
And rock in your sock.
That's rock in your sock. Okay, so that's good news physically. And those numbers, I mean, those are inspiring to hear about those. Those things doesn't have to happen at a lifestyle center, but it does happen there at your lifestyle center. I want to talk about something a lot of people are concerned about, that being nutrition and cognition. You know, do you find that the nutritional changes people make, the exercise changes people make, the lifestyle changes people make, what does it do to them mentally in terms of their ability to think?
Most people report an improvement in their thinking ability, their sense of well-being and their presence. Some people even go so far as to say that they have regained the spark in their thinking that they thought was long gone. Now, be that as it may, there are some people who have other medical conditions that actually, by working with them in their lifestyle, we discover and we can test for and treat problems that would have caused them to have mental dullness. One of the common things that we find at the Lifestyle Center, particularly in people who are overweight, is that they may have obstructive sleep apnea that they didn't know about.
So in other words, they have these times when they're not breathing. Apnea means not breathing?
Not breathing. And this would occur typically at night, and their spouse might be aware of it. The snoring might be loud or whatever. Sometimes husbands and wives sleep in different rooms because of the loud snoring, but it doesn't have to be that way. And we discover this. We put them on appropriate
by hearing
therapy. No, sometimes it's not a matter of hearing it. We suspect it.
Okay.
See, we look at the person, we hear the person, we perform the inventory that we have, an 18-page inventory that we use, health questionnaire, and we suspect it, we test for it, and lo and behold, the person has this problem. By treating it, oftentimes their alertness during the day improves. They do very, very well with some very simple intervention. The long-term treatment, of course, is that after they've lost much more weight, then they may not even need to use the breathing assistive devices that we prescribe.
So they feel a lot better, they're sharper, they finally have gotten rest when they never really have been getting good sleep.
That's correct. Similarly, in people who have diabetes, by getting the blood sugar under control, many people do a lot better. They feel better, their brains work better. We also have a record, if you will, of people who did not know that their thyroid was not functioning well enough. Mm-hmm. Okay? So they actually have hypothyroidism, and we discover that while they're there. And by starting them on appropriate treatment, and also by the change in their lifestyle, which is the undergirding of their experience, they do much better, they think better, they're thinking more clearly, they have more energy and more pep. So we have, depending upon what the circumstance might be, we have a whole variety of reasons why people do better mentally.
Now, I've heard a statistic that I don't know if it's true, but you may be more up on the literature, that for every risk factor that you have, so-called risk factor, I guess, coming out of the studies that were done in the 40s and 50s where we learned about heart disease, for every major risk factor that we have, there is an effect on our mental sensorium. There is a downside for us mentally. Have you heard that?
That is true. I don't know of any current literature that has really tried to revive that. If we were to look at the risk factors, for instance, cigarette smoking, it's a clear indicator that people who smoke cigarettes, because of the effect of the nicotine and the carbon monoxide, etc., they aren't getting as much oxygen to the brain, and therefore you can easily surmise that their thinking may not be quite as clear. If they have high blood pressure, the research has shown that people with high blood pressure have a decrease in the white matter of their brain. They actually have brain damage if they allow their blood pressure to remain high, whether or not they're treated with medications. So that's an issue. People with diabetes can end up with problems associated with blood sugar being too high. They end up with so-called diabetic dementia. Or if they have bouts of very low blood sugar that is sustained over time, then they can end up with permanent brain damage. So if you go through all of the risk factors, you can find that these things can affect. People with atherosclerosis or coronary artery disease, they typically have atherosclerosis affecting all of their arteries, including the arteries in the brain, and this will, over time, decrease the person's mental ability. They may end up with what we call a vascular dementia or an ischemic dementia.
And these things start to reverse in that 19-day program or the other programs that you see there. Probably if you had alumni meetings, which I don't know if you do, a couple years later or something, and people, as they're maintaining that program, that lifestyle, it would have even more marked results.
Yes, over time, as you persist with a good lifestyle, you can also increase the yield, if you will, of the reversal of some of the processes that have been started.
Now, several years ago, taking some of the principles that you have there at your program in my own life, I started to move away from the dairy products and from especially the cheeses and different things. Now, there was a time when I went back and then I just had a big, large cheese pizza, and I could hardly think after that. I mean, I felt terrible. I'd never noticed that before, but you know, is that something that we see happening too? I mean, my mind, maybe it was and actually is clear because of the things I'm not putting in my system.
Actually, a lot of people report that same kind of phenomenon happening. From the scientific standpoint, one possible explanation, which we can demonstrate, is actually what happens when you have a lot of saturated fat. And that cheese pizza that you had is loaded with saturated fat. The saturated fat actually coats the red blood cells. So instead of having blood that flows through the small blood vessels, the capillaries, the way orange juice would flow through your capillaries, you end up with something flowing through your capillaries more like ketchup. Okay? Now, which one do you think would be able to give you more oxygen and take away more of the carbon dioxide? Would it be the orange juice type liquid, or would it be the ketchup type liquid?
Yeah, I think I get the point, the orange juice.
Yeah. And the reason why I use orange juice as opposed to water is because the blood actually has these particles, these cells in it, suspended, much like some of the particles in orange juice is suspended in the orange juice itself.
So people feel better, and they actually are better in terms of the facts physically, and then in terms of what we know scientifically, and we start to see those improvements mentally.
Yes.
Now, undergirding all that, you're a Christian physician. Many of the people that work at the Lifestyle Center are Christian. They're people of faith. I don't believe that you can script anybody into being a Christian or whatnot, but do you see a change spiritually in people?
For many people who come to the Lifestyle Center, as they see physical improvement, as they see mental improvement, as they begin to relax and get rest, some needed rest that they didn't have before, as they drink more water and see the effects of that on their body, as they exercise and take good deep breaths and everything else in their life is being enhanced, we also find that people have what one might call a more spiritual awakening. They tend to start taking inventory in their own life and trying to find the things that matter to them. As they examine that, they come face to face with the reality of a creator, a designer, the one who made us and the one who told us, here is the way, walk ye in it. This is the way to live. I want you to prosper and to be in health, but I also want your soul to prosper as well.
Socially?
Socially, the mix of people that we have, people interact during the course of the program, and many people remain in contact with each other after they leave the program. So it's also an enhancement of people's social lives. We've had some patients who have come through who one might call social outcasts. They don't really have a lot of friends and things like that. But they come into the environment, they meet people who care for them, they meet other patients and guests who are there who are going through similar kind of health challenges and life challenges. They may bond with 1 or 2 or 3 people. They get to know the whole group. And you know what? We see these people come alive socially.
Is that right?
We've had some people who, at the beginning of a program, have been very shy and introverted. Really, they weren't really that way. They just didn't think that they had anything to contribute. By the end of the program, these people are the life of the party. They blossom because they're in an environment that they feel very safe and comfortable.
Do they want to stay?
Actually, as you mentioned it, there are many people who say, you know, I wish I could stay. Unfortunately, that's not home. The Lifestyle Center is actually an artificial environment.
Right, they got to go.
People come there, they learn some things, they experience things, but really the proof and the results that they get is really when they make that transition back to home. They put the things that we have taught them into practice, and they live out a life that is fuller and richer than they thought possible.
Well, they have to go, but you get to stay. Do you enjoy, it seems like you really enjoy what you do.
Well, I love people, and I think God has called me to be at the Lifestyle Center to minister to people and to help people in whatever way I can. And you know, there's an old saying that goes like this: people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I care a lot about people, and sometimes they tell me it shows.
Maybe some of those people are watching now that have been through your program, or maybe some people are thinking about going through a similar program. What would you have to say to them?
I would say, for those who have gone through already, please keep up the good habits. Trust in God. He has shown us the way. He will see you through. Keep up the good work. For those who are contemplating whether they should change their lifestyle, that's the number one, or whether you want to go to a lifestyle program or not, is not really the issue. But if you recognize that there are some aspects of your life that you would really benefit from by changing, by all means, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path.
We've been talking to Dr. Zeno Charles Marcel. He's the medical director at the Lifestyle Center of America, located in Oklahoma, actually in between Oklahoma City and Dallas-Fort Worth area. And if you would like more information about that program, you can contact the Lifestyle Center at their website, which is www.lifestylecenter.org. Or you can contact us here at 3ABN, and we can give you information and contact numbers for them. They deal with the major illnesses that plague America: heart disease, diabetes, cancer, or avoiding cancer, stroke, obesity, these types of things. And there's just a lot of wealth of information that Dr. Zeno Charles Marcel has shared with us today that we hope is helpful to you, whether or not you attend a Lifestyle Center program. We know that as a result of putting these principles into practice, you can and will have health that lasts for a lifetime.